star and Steelers legend, the boss, Jerome Bettis. Hey, Jerome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. How's it going? How does it feel with this? This is a very Hall of Fame heavy side over there.
It's always good.
We've been doing this for a while.
For a long time.
Share the story about when we first met.
Oh, my goodness. We first met in Detroit.
He remembers.
At a Reggie, I definitely remember. Reggie McKenzie, who was a legendary offensive lineman at University of the state that I grew up in. I don't want to talk about.
Big Blue.
Michigan.
Right,
Michigan.
Basketball.
Right.
And NFL legend.
NFL legend. And then he had a camp. And he had given the camp down to the director, was Pepper Johnson.
Okay.
And Pepper Johnson went to Ohio State with Chris and was really good friends and brought Chris to Detroit for this football camp. And I was in high school at the camp.
Wow.
And yes. And I got an opportunity to spend time with Chris, Keith Byers, those guys. They kind of helped mold me into the player I was because, to see these guys playing in the NFL, it was really inspiring for a young guy. I was in the 10th grade.
Yep.
I saw him, got a chance to talk to him. They spent time with us. So
his coaches pointed him out to us that this is a kid who really had a chance. He had a great head on his shoulders. He's going to make good decisions. He's going to be a great football player. So that was our first interaction.
That's really cool.
I didn't know that story. That's great.
All right, let's talk about...
He was a baby bus, Dean.
Yeah, the baby.
He did a baby bus.
The little one.
A baby bus.
Let's talk about your Steelers, Jerome. One of just a handful of teams in the league that considers anything less than a trip to the Super Bowl a disappointment. Standards are high. Last year's results were not. Losing in the divisional round of the playoffs to the Jags, 45-42. Heartbreaking for Steelers fans. However, next season, the Steelers start the year with one of the most potent offenses in the league, led by, you hear it every year now, Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown. So, Jerome, how open is the Super Bowl window for the Steelers, with most of that offense still intact?
It's open, but you have to think that it's, it'll start to close just because from a financial standpoint, it's hard to keep all those guys in place for a long period of time. So, I mean, they still have another year or two to try to take advantage of this incredible opportunity they have with this explosive offense, but they've got to find a way to get that defense to at least be good enough to stop teams. They don't have to stop teams all the time, but just stop them in key moments, and I think that's the key.
Well, so let's talk about the Steelers offense a little more for a minute. Ben Roethlisberger is going to, at one point, join you guys in Canton. Antonio Brown is on that type of trajectory. He hasn't yet done enough, but the beginning of his career is on his way there. But then there's Le'Veon Bell. And when you talk about the financials of keeping this team together, this is the last year they can franchise Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
So if they don't get a long-term deal done, you assuming Le'Veon plays well and doesn't get injured, which is obviously what the Steelers want, he's going to hit true free agency next year. How critical do you view Bell as far as that offense being one of the league's best?
He's critical because of what he's capable of doing. Not only can he line up 7 yards deep, but you also can put him on line of scrimmage and run him as a receiver. And as we've seen with this NFL that we're playing in today, it's about mismatches. And it's about, that running back in particular being able to go out there and create that mismatch that gives you an advantage tactically. So I think to replace him is going to be very difficult. So I think they need to find a way to really coexist. And I think they can find a number where both are happy with, where maybe the Steelers aren't comfortable with paying, but Le'Veon Bell, maybe he's not getting the exact number that he wants. So they find common ground, and I think it can work.
Now, being good friends with you and some of the other great Steelers, Mel Blount, Lynn Swann, Big Mean Joe Green. I mean, you guys have one of the best alumni bases that we have in the hall, have seen. The fan base. I tell the people, one of the best in the business. No matter where the Steelers go, man, their fans show up to support them. Now, we're talking about people, Midwestern people, people not of great means, but, man, they make tremendous amount of sacrifices. I was troubled by Le'Veon Bell's comments last week, knowing the relationship with the greats and their fan, what he said, that they're trying to make him a villain in a city that typically is meant for heroes. And I know the relationship that you have with the Steelers fans. Help me understand how it got to this point, or is there something that I'm missing that's going on there between Le'Veon Bell and the fan base in Pittsburgh?
I don't know if it's quite the fan base that he was kind of directing that to. I think he was more directing that to the media in Pittsburgh, because I believe, his concern is that they're painting that brush to make him look like he's greedy and that he doesn't necessarily deserve what he's asking for. And so now what's being pushed out in the local media is that, hey, he can't.
Which ultimately affects the fans.
Ultimately it does. And it kind of, what he doesn't want is to be looked at as though he's this greedy, selfish football player, when that he can't be anything but that. He's nowhere near that type of player, but he feels he has a value and a worth, and it should coincide with the number that
with his productivity.
Absolutely. And so you understand that. The Steelers understand that. Right, but they're going to be quiet about it because they don't want anything to happen, because if he's not there, they don't want the fan base to feel as though they didn't do everything they could to make sure he was there. It's just a matter of him not wanting to be looked upon as that greedy, selfish player that happens sometimes.
Just like Chris is the weather and golf expert on this show, I am the local radio expert on this show, and let me tell you, to amplify that point, the local talk radio in Pittsburgh is really hard on him. I believe that's what he was talking about. You have two very high-rated, well-listened-to stations in Pittsburgh, and they talk about him more than we talk about Odell and LeBron combined.
Not sure it's possible, but probably a close second.
So I think that's what he was lashing out at. But go ahead, Jim.
One of the ongoing narratives we always talk about with the Steelers is the way they do business in the locker room, right? That's the narrative. It's the noise, the distractions. You have a problem, I'll take it to social media. I have an issue, I'll post about it, I'll talk about it. Oh, we have the Jaguars coming up, I'll throw some shade. Like, there's a lot that comes out that we discuss. We always have Eric Mangini on here, and he says, hey, every family is to their own. Like, that's the way they do business in Pittsburgh. Do you get a sense of that? Is that just a well-oiled machine, that's not out of the ordinary, that's sort of the way everything works there, and that's the way Mike Tomlin wants it to work? Well,
Mike Tomlin, he allows a lot more leeway than other coaches in certain areas. So, he's not that hard on them from a social media standpoint, where other organizations are going to say, hey, we want everything to be silent, we don't want anything to come out from the locker room, where Coach Tomlin doesn't necessarily have those major concerns. His concern is you being where you're supposed to be, how you conduct yourself on and off the football field. Those are the issues that are really, really near and dear to him. So I think from a social media standpoint, they have a laxed kind of policy.
They seem to not even have a policy.
Exactly.
No policy.
And so, but you also have to look at it from the standpoint of the players have a voice and they have an opportunity to say what they want to say, and they're not being controlled in terms of, hey, what you say. But the one thing they do say is, understand that there's a negative part that comes with this, and if you say something, you're going to have to deal with the consequences, and we're going to have to deal with the consequences, as you saw with Antonio Brown in the locker room issue.
Mike Tomlin gets a lot of criticism. If Jerome Bettis is playing in the NFL today, how does it look you playing? Or do you want to play for a guy like Mike Tomlin representing your Pittsburgh Steelers?
Absolutely. I want to play for a guy like Mike Tomlin because I'm a grown man. And the decisions that I make in terms of social media, when I press send, I have to stand by those, right? And so I understand that. And so if that is the case, then I have to deal with that head on. And Coach Tomlin says, hey, if you do it, then we're going to have to deal with it. And so as a man, you have to understand that that's part of it. And you don't want to be treated like a child per se, as much as you want to be treated like a man and say, okay, I'm going to stand by this if I press in.
Now, Bus, I'm a fan of the bus. I'm on the bus. Tell us what has brought you here to New York City, and what are you lending the voice of the bus to?
Well, I'm working with Stryker on a new program, and it's called Get on the Bus. And it's really spawned by my fear of going to the doctor and we did a great program last year with me and Fred Funk, the pro golfer. We went around the country and we got an opportunity to do a lot of different things just to kind of show a healthy lifestyle. But in that process, I got to talking to Fred, and he had a knee surgery, and he had a new knee put in. And, he kind of convinced me and urged me to go see my doctor about the knee pains that I was having. And I thought, this would be a great opportunity to use that as a positive. And got with Stryker, and now this program is called Get on the Bus. And what we're doing is we're encouraging people to, even if they or someone they know and love needs to go to the doctor, but maybe needs a little encouragement, that we're encouraging them to go. And this is a contest. So me and Fred Funk, we're targeting 3 cities: Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Florida, and northern New Jersey. And what will happen is you can write in. You can go to the website. It's called patient.stryker.com. They can go there. Write a little bit of why they or their loved one needs some encouragement, and then they can possibly win an opportunity for us to take their loved one or them to the doctor, drop them off there, and so they can get some information about
patient.stryker.com.
Yep.
There you go.
All right, check it out.
And I might be one of those people that needs a little encouragement. So
I was just going to say,
I did,
and my
right?
3-year-old, so you'll take both of them. That'll be perfect. Jerome, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We really appreciate it. Great insight.
You got to rotate the tires. You got to oil up the bus. You can't let the bus get old. Even the bus need a treatment.
Take a break. We're back right after this.
Take care of that bus now. Appreciate